I was indeed in Reykjavik very recently, and I was impressed by the beauty of the country. I also felt that there's a very, very lively debate on whether Iceland should join the European Union or not. And I found this very familiar because we also had a very lively debate in my own country. I think that in the case of my country, we are now almost 6 years into EU membership. We have done well, so much so that today the issue of whether we should have joined or not is completely a non-issue. People take it for granted that we are in the European Union, and we should be, and it's almost as if we've been in it forever. Now is the time to study the issue very, very carefully and establish whether the country should make this important step. But I can see a lot of similarities between Iceland and my own country in terms of the size of the country and the population, in terms also of the issues that have come up. In our case, we made that debate, and the people finally decided that we should join.
Well, it's entirely a matter for the people of Iceland to decide if they want to join the European Union or not. But from a Scottish perspective, Iceland's got an awful lot of friends already within the institutes here in Brussels, and a lot of friends within the European Union. As a member of the EEA, of course, Iceland's spending a lot of time with the EU's programmes, and I think there are a lot of advantages for Iceland to gain, and especially to help us in Scotland to reform the policies that we don't like. We don't like the common fisheries policy any more than Iceland does, and we've been fighting from within the common fisheries policy, where you've been fighting from without. I think we should join forces and cooperate to get the common fisheries policy sensible, because you know how to run a fisheries industry, the EU doesn't.
Why should they stay outside, having no right of saying in creating the rules of common community life? I think it's better, even when you are small, to sit around the table with the others and talk about the issues.
My view for many years has been that I personally would love to see Iceland as a full member of the European Union. I think Iceland is a country that has a European vocation, that it has, for instance, the oldest parliament in the world, and it really would logically be the next step for it to come in from the cold and from what is a rather isolated and vulnerable position to be a full member of the European Union. And I think also that it has as role models small countries like Ireland or like its Nordic neighbour Finland as role models that have come into the European Union, been hugely successful even as small countries, and I think that's what Icelanders should have in mind.
First of all, you grow when you join the European Union, and I come from Poland that joined quite recently the European Union. You immediately become bigger because you are part of a family of 27. With Iceland it would be 28 member states, and you are better known in the world. Your voice counts much more strongly than if you are alone. Gentlemen don't talk about money, but I think it is important to understand that the European Union offers also to its member states financial support.
No, I genuinely cannot think of a serious long-term benefit for a country to be in the European Union. I suppose in Iceland's case, if Iceland is unable to rebuild her economy after the banking shambles, then you could say that giving away Iceland's fish in exchange for being propped up by the taxpayers of Germany and Britain is a good thing. But how long will the taxpayers of Germany and Britain be prepared to keep on paying for countries in the European Union whose economies are even worse than ours are?
It is not possible to have everyone in any nation be supportive of being a member of the European Union. The most important is that you see more advantages than disadvantages. I think nowadays one single country cannot do much on the global scene. So getting together, working in a unity is an advantage. But it's important also to remember about your national identity, to remember who you are, and I'm sure that Icelandic people will never forget who they are, so there is no threat to Icelandic national identity, even if Iceland becomes the EU member.
I think it should be done in a fast-track procedure, because anyway Iceland has standards of European Union. It's nothing new for the people in Iceland. Everybody knows what's going on European level. I think the main impact is that Icelandic people get a say.
We were one of the poorest countries, now we're one of the wealthiest in terms of GDP, and I think the same can happen to Iceland. So it's a great opportunity for them, and also of course they'll be part of the great European family.
I'm from a Nordic country, I'm from Denmark, so I would like Iceland to become a member of EU. The sooner the better.
I think in the time of the very, very difficult economical situation with a crisis crunch, being together and solidarity, which is a key principle of the European Union, may give a hand.
The way the EU works, it's not about how big your country is, it's are you a country? And of course Iceland's an ancient, very proud, democratic country, more democratic than most of us, with a massive amount to contribute to the way the EU does business. I would personally love to see an Icelandic minister working with the Scottish ministers and those of us who are looking to reform the European Union to actually make it a force for good in the world. I think there's a lot of things about the EU that are good but could be made an awful lot better, and I think Iceland could help in that project.
It will give you a much greater stability in terms of your economy, ultimately at one point in terms of your currency, and it will give you a group of friends who I would hope could surround you and hug you at this very desperate time.
I'm absolutely sure that if you ask in the streets of Brussels or another European city people if Iceland is a member of the European Union, they would tell you already today that yes, Iceland is with us in the Union.